look for ways to try to ease our minds, forced into a change. I guess it had to be this way. But do your best to try to stay away. The day they closed the world, we all went inside, looking for the light. The day they closed the world, we all realized what it means to try. So hold on to the love, don't you be afraid. There come a time when you will have your say, and don't forget to pray the Lord to keep us safe. We will live to fight another day. The day they closed the world, we all went inside, looking for the light. The day they closed the world, we all realized what it means to try. I can feel it coming, I can see it miles away. I can feel the sun of brighter days. I can hear the laughter, I can see your smiling face. I can feel the love that's on the way. The day they closed the world, we all went inside, looking for the light. The day they closed the world, we all realized what it means to try. The day they closed the world, we all went outside, looking for the light. I can feel it coming, I can see it miles away. I can feel the sun of brighter days. I can hear the laughter, I can see your smiling face. I can feel the love that's on the way. I can feel it coming, I can feel it coming. I can feel it coming, I can feel it coming. Day they close the world.
Do not fear! Saf is here, and this is Saf Buxy from Spirituality Gone Wild. And what a platform we have here today, and what a show we got today. My name is Saf Buxy, and I'm Saf Surgery. This is SGW, the platform to be on right now. And let me tell you about my guest today. My guest is Katrina Vaillancourt. That sounds gangster, isn't it? Katrina Vaillancourt. What did I tell you? What did I tell you? Don't buy anything. Don't buy anything. Katrina Vaillancourt. Katrina is mother, artist, compassionate communication enthusiast, and the creator of Love Smart Cards, which I'm dying to hear everything about, because I think what she has developed and what she's got in place is absolutely beautiful. Katrina has led workshops for non-profit organizations such as Earth Guardians, the Pachamama Alliance, and the Patrick McCollum Foundation for Peace. Through classes, workshops, presentations, at expos and festivals and private coaching. Her teachings have reached hundreds of couples, individuals, parents, child, family relationships since 2006. But her greatest passion was to make these teachings of compassion easily accessible, to help heal relationship divides so that connection of empathic understanding can lead to co-creative win-win problem solving. Her motto is playing the game of co-creating win-wins, and I absolutely love that. Katrina is in the green room now. Whether I could added onto the stream or not. Oh, Katrina, you're here. What's up? What's up, Katrina? How you doing? Huh? How you doing?
Doing great today. Doing great.
I thought I was gonna miss you. I think we got the timings all wrong, right?
We did a little bit. Yes, there is a bit of a time difference between you and I, and I'm glad we got it figured out in time.
Lovely. Well, look, I've got a few messages already. Actually, we haven't even started. Debbie Garcia, Debbie G, my baby, saying you're listening to www.loveplanet.com. Prince Fleet has given 5 hearts. Steve Weber, welcome Katrina to SGW. Debbie's saying Steve. Yeah, yay. Hi Saf, hi Katrina from Debbie. So lovely. Keep them all coming, guys, and welcome, Katrina. We got something in common, and that's SGW, right? Where was I? I met you, I think it was last week, and as soon as I had the opportunity to have you on my show, I thought I'd take it because just for you and for the viewers who listen and view, there will not be a show next week because I'm filming for Sky Television, which is going to be amazing. Can't say too much about it at the moment, so I'm going to play one of my repeats. So that's why I was keen to get Katrina on today, and had to rejig a few things. But Katrina, the work you do, I mean, I know a little bit about it. Obviously, I know Debbie G quite well. I know Scott Katamas, and I know that you were involved with things that he does as well. But you do your own thing now. Have I got the website correct on the bottom? Just so I know, is that all? Is that all you? Yeah.
That is it.
Correct. That's it. Just wanted to make sure I got all that. But look, welcome not only onto my show, but welcome to SGW. But please look.
Thank you.
Let's start from the beginning. Let's start from where it all began, where your life was 20 years ago. So when you were born. I don't know. I don't know. You look 20. Over to you.
Thank you. Well, 20 years ago, I was in a dark night of the soul. I had a very difficult divorce with a 1-year-old child. I was in a dark night of the soul, and I had not yet discovered these tools. At the time that I discovered these tools, my relationship with my ex-husband was in really, really, really such a challenging place. We couldn't hold a conversation for 5 minutes without entering into some form of conflict escalation with anger and tears. He had moved 2 hours away from me. He had our son for the majority of the time at that point. And my relationship with my son was also very strained. So my son's now 22, and my goodness, we have the most amazing relationship. Yesterday was my birthday. My ex-husband came onto the Zoom call with the whole family. The healing has been extraordinary. I found out about these tools 14 years ago. And when my son was 10 years old, I had reestablished custody with the help of other people who knew these tools. They helped me to reestablish custody of my son without going through the court system. And that's huge for me. You know, for anybody who's gone through a divorce and has had to go through the family court system, it's not a place you want to be. It can be a very, very painful place. If you can go through a peaceful mediation, it's so preferred. It can really help the family. Thank God the court's there if it's needed. Gratefully, I'd had this support. And so I was reestablished with my son, and he was living with me Monday through Friday and with his dad on the weekends. And I thought everything was going to be better. We'd had years of not seeing each other much, only having weekend visitation at a 2-hour distance. So it wasn't even every weekend. And I was, so pained to experience it every single day that my son was with me in these first 6 months. At some point in the day, he'd wrap himself around my leg and he'd start screaming, "I hate you, I hate you. I want to live with my dad," for a half hour. And so this was a daily occurrence. And I was like, God help me, what do I do here?
How was that? How was that for you hearing that? Because for any parent to hear that, it's like it's tragic. But for a mother, because the mother-child bond and a son as well, and it's like, wow, man. I mean,
it was devastating. I love and adore my son. I always have. I used to not be able to tell this story without just breaking down in tears. And
well, I think I've got a little tear coming, Katrina. Wow.
If it weren't for the transformation, our relationship is in fabulous shape right now. If it weren't for that transformation, I would still be in tears over that experience. But the breakthroughs have been so big. But at the time, absolutely devastating. My heart just was feeling crushed and shattered from hearing my son scream at me and tell me that he didn't want to live with me after I'd worked so hard to reestablish custody. And 6 months of this is wearing. I was grateful to have a roommate who was like, you go take a walk. I'm going to take care of your son for a while. So, there's little blessings along the way, but the big blessing happened when I recognized that the quickest way I could learn the tools of nonviolent communication was to have a set of cards and to really develop my vocabulary. The basic principles of nonviolent communication is that everything we do is driven by precious needs. And there are 128 of these needs that are defined in nonviolent communication from Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, whose mentor was Carl Rogers. When our needs are well met, we feel great. When they're not well met, then we don't feel great. So then we're really looking at the value of understanding our emotions as it relates to these universal needs that drive our action. And when we can understand that in ourselves and in another person, that's the foundation that is necessary to be able to really create win-wins. So I knew that this was really potent because what I had experienced in the year prior to that, I put on the level of the miraculous, the mediated sessions that I had that helped me regain custody. Really, when we couldn't have a 5-minute conversation without an argument, and all of a sudden we have a 3-hour mediated conversation that ends in "I love you" in tears with my ex-husband. That was on the level of miraculous. So I knew I needed to learn that. And I just had one of these downloads. I know that those are, that can happen when we're deep in prayer and we're like, help, what do I do? And so I was guided to make this set of cards. It's, of course, since become a published product. But in the beginning, it was just something I created on my printer so that I could teach myself nonviolent communication. So there's 4 sets of cards here. And then I enrolled my son in playing these card games with me. And I gave him a point system, and every time he played the game with me, he would get a point. And when he got 100 points, then he would be able to get the video game of his choice. And so I had my strategy set up, and I had chosen 100 points because I really thought, he's screaming every day. This is going to take a while. This is not an overnight thing. So 100 points gave me some confidence that I would have the time to be able to work through the challenges with my son. What was amazing to me was that in the first half hour of playing card games with my son, the dynamic turned around. So what happened was the first exercise, for his first point, I pulled out these emotions cards. And what had happened is that he'd had a bunch of friends over at the house. It was dinner time. I sent his friends home. And so I could feel him starting to wind up, you're not fair, you're mean, I hate you. Like I could feel that wind up about to happen because it was happening predictably every day. I said, would you like to earn your first point? And he says, yes. And so I said, okay, well, for the first point, I'm just going to guess what it is that you're feeling, and you let me know if I've got it right. And so, of course, his friends were sent home. He was feeling sad, frustrated, angry, bored. Those were some of the main emotions that were coming up. But I went through the whole deck and identified his emotions, and he looked at that and he said, yep, that's what I'm feeling. I said, great. Would you like another point? And he said, yes. So I said, okay, I'm going to just guess what it is you want right now. Okay, so these are universal needs. And I found cards, like I'm guessing that you're wanting friendship, connection, fun, laughter, play, ease, choice, respect. You know, these are some of the ones that I pulled out from this set of cards. And again, he looks at them and he says, yeah, that's what I want. I said, great. Would you like another point? And he says, yes. I said, okay, well, so for the next 2 points, would you guess what I'm feeling right now and what I would want right now? And I was not expecting him to have the accuracy that he had. I'm sitting behind him as he starts flipping down cards and recognizing, guessing that I'm feeling sad and heavy-hearted and alone and frustrated and stressed, and that I'm needing love and kindness and respect and cooperation. So he went through the cards and did the very same process I did. And so I'm sitting behind him, and I mean, you can probably understand the contrast of the screaming fits from the day before to him putting down these cards where he's acknowledging, like, you're feeling sad, you're feeling frustrated, you're feeling patient, you need love, you need care, you need connection. It was such a contrast to me that I had tears coming down my eyes while I'm sitting behind him. So he turns around to look at me and he wants to know, did I get the cards right? And he sees the tears streaming down my face. And he goes, Mommy, are you okay? And I said, yes. Thank you so much for understanding what I'm going through. And he goes, Mommy, I love you. And he wraps his arms around me. The biggest hug I'd had since he had started living with his dad. And the fits stopped overnight. He's now 22. We only had to pull out the cards for conflict 2 more times.
Wow. So half an hour before that, half an hour before the cards came into play, he's got tantrums, his friends have left, he's being unreasonable, he's shouting and screaming and I hate you, I don't like what you've done, blah blah blah. And then half an hour later you're playing this wonderful game. I mean, now you've explained it to me, it's making amazing sense. And I can see how it would definitely work with children with ADHD, with autism, but not only children, this works with adults as well, right?
Absolutely.
Katrina?
Yes.
We could play this right now. We could
play this.
Well, I need a set as well. I can't tell you how you're feeling. But I think you're feeling good. I think you're feeling happy. But isn't that amazing? Because it's like, it's not only is it non-violent communication, in a sense, it's using pictures and this is what it is. It's using pictures and words to communicate, because sometimes when you talk too much, that can be misinterpreted and that could go off the, I mean, look at that. I mean,
you get a
heartbroken.
52 words. These are just 2 of the sets that I'm showing you here. And then a picture that really represents how our heart feels when we're in pain. Right? And then these are the universal needs, longings, values, and desires. I like to use all those words because they, you know, sometimes one word feels more appropriate than the other. But just to give you a sense of what's here, you're not going to find chocolate or a vacation or a massage in the universal needs, right? They are universal. Any human being is going to share these needs, just like every human being shares the very same emotions, right? And when you can build a needs awareness, oh my goodness, it makes life so much easier. It makes relationships so much easier. You can then really hold yourself with care while holding everyone in your environment with care when you have this needs awareness.
This is absolutely incredible. So how did you come up with the idea? I know you mentioned about Rosenberg, and you got involved with that, and I know Scott is reads and researches his stuff as well, and I think has met him in the past. How did you actually come up with the cards idea? Because I think it's phenomenal. It really is. I think this is something. This service, this can be used in schools of all kinds. I think this is needed,
Hmm.
and I think this should be taken globally. But how did you come up with this idea? Firstly, patent it, make it your own.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I'm an artist, so one of the things I would sometimes do as I was just processing through the grief and the pain I was feeling, again, before I had this tool, is I'd sit and paint. And so I actually just took out my watercolors and just whatever was coming through, I just let it come through. I've come to really, really trust in that. But the foundation really is nonviolent communication. It's the work of Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. He, when he was a young boy, he felt driven to find the key to creating peace. And when I say that, he was like 8 years old when he witnessed his father being beat up by police officers simply because he had a Jewish last name. He experienced being bullied in the school simply because he's Jewish and for no other reason whatsoever. And it was just like, what is it with human beings that they would do this to one another? And how can I study human beings? Because there's other people I see who are incredibly generous and open-hearted and contributing to life. And so he wanted to understand that. So he followed the path of psychology, figuring that that's what was going to give him the solutions. And he worked all the way through his PhD. And he sometimes jokes around about how his PhD, it didn't give him the answers he was looking for. So he'll say, before my PhD, if I was driving and there was somebody who I had a driving style I didn't like, then I could call them a jerk. And after my PhD, then I knew they were a psychopath. And again, it's just another label. It's a little fancier. It's got a PhD behind it. But fortunately, the world of psychology is changing, but so much of it has been about what is wrong with you, how do I evaluate it, label it, and then treat you for it, which was not what he needed to be able to find peace. When we're labeling each other, when we're evaluating and judging each other, that's actually creating divisions. It's not creating healing and peace. So fortunately, he came upon the work of Carl Rogers, and Carl Rogers is really amazing. He's got a number of videos up on YouTube where he talks about empathy. And this piece, this ingredient of empathy is the critical key. It's where our hearts connect. It's where we get to see each other in our deepest humanity, our vulnerability, our pains, our joys. And again, where that information is, where we can understand the underlying needs in a way that empowers us to be able to co-create in a win-win way with each other. So that's the primary work that this is based in. However, I also added something that's not in nonviolent communication, and that are the character strengths. And this is more of a universal spiritual teaching. It's the encouragement, basically, to be a loving, kind, compassionate, generous, forgiving, wise, frugal, tactful, assertive person. So there's 64 character strengths that I have in this set of cards. And this is really recognizing that in life, challenges happen. It's part of the human experience. And if we can look at the challenges as opportunities to deepen our compassion, our kindness, our patience, our trustworthiness, if we use these opportunities to deepen all of these qualities, like that is the most precious thing we can do with our lives. It's a way that we are uplifting our own energy, but also sharing that gift with all the people around us. So this weaves into the teachings of nonviolent communication in a beautiful way, but is distinct from the basic teachings of Marshall Rosenberg. So basic teachings of Marshall Rosenberg have the universal needs, these ones here, and then they have the emotions connected to met needs. So it's another set of cards I hadn't pulled out yet. And then the ones that are connected to unmet needs. And
wow.
Once you understand the principles of nonviolent communication and also the principles that can be used with character strengths, there are so many processes you can do to uplift your emotional intelligence, to increase your emotional resiliency, to sort out conflict, whether that's a conflict you're having internally to yourself or with someone else. Even to manage the emotions that come up when we read the news. For those who are still watching the news, I know for some people that's been overwhelming. But you can, if you see news that's painful, you can look at what is that pain that's coming up, and what are the values that are really important to me, that are being awakened by what I'm reading, that are being awakened by this experience. Because ultimately, this is what we're seeking to serve, are these universal values.
To me, it's like a diary, which is already written, and you just pick out how you're feeling, right? It's like a journal, because I think writing is very therapeutic for me, and I like to write things down. But this will save me a lot of time. I just pick up how I'm feeling because it's already written down for me, which I think is amazing.
Mhm.
You come across really spiritual and
Mhm.
and really authentic in the way you talk, and it's so soothing, and I love that about this communication we're having now. It's beautiful. I Like many of my guests before they come on, I do try and do a bit of research and try and do a bit of stalking, and I came across something that you did, and it was so beautiful to watch. I wanted to hear your reasoning and how often you do this. It was you'd placed the camera in a certain position and you were doing these movements,
Uh,
okay, and it was these spiritual movements, and I was just engrossed. I was just
mhm.
there in that moment with you, and it was like I was doing it with you without actually doing it. Can you tell me where that all came from? Because that's all spiritual stuff, right?
Thank you, thank you. Well, so
Yeah.
as I shared earlier, I'm an artist, and I view artist not as like I'm a painter or a singer or a dancer, but my being is artistic expression. And as I shared with you, I had definitely a dark night of the soul in my early 20s. I was 23 when my life collapsed out under me, and I was like, how on earth would I ever recover from it? I could not see my way through. It was so dark that I was in a deep depression, did not want to live for several years. And when you're that dark, it's important to have something to grab a hold of. I wasn't raised with any kind of religion, but I was raised with basic humanistic values and encouraged to check out whatever I wanted to check out. So I've checked out many different religions and spiritual practices. And ultimately, I found a lot of healing potential again in the arts. So my dance, the movement that you saw, is a form of emotional expression, of empowerment, and of prayer. I love it. It has not a whole lot to do with the cards, although I can always blend the cards with just about anything. They have universal principles, so I can do that. But it was actually probably the biggest tool I had for being able to generate light and joy from my own being when I felt so dark that I just couldn't imagine being alive on the planet. I was that dark. And, thank God I'm not now. Thank God life feels so blessed, even with all the challenges that are going on. Life feels so blessed. And I know that so much of it is the internal ways that we're processing the world around us. So much of it has to do with the conditioning and the childhood trauma that we experienced early in our lives. Have we actually been able to work that through? Have we been able to shed a light on the pains of our past so to bring healing to them and not let them continue to run the show in our life? So I did massive amounts of work in the last 20 years. I wanted to learn everything I possibly could from my divorce. The Love Smart cards, tools, and teachings are a huge part of the work that I did, but absolutely my dance expression. I'm a devotional singer. I am a painter. I'm a sculptor. I whatever art form I can find and I'm inspired by in the moment, I enjoy picking it up and running with it.
It's so wonderful to hear someone who's been through such a dark state. I mean, I can relate to you on that front. Mine was addiction, and I was entrapped with that, totally ensnared with addiction, and it took me 33 years to come out of it. but when you finally come out of it, it's such a beautiful feeling. It's
Yes.
like a whole weight has been lifted, and then
Yes.
it's what you do. Coming out of it is one thing. It's staying out and what you do
Yes.
whilst you're out. And
Yes.
I think what you found and what you do by staying in this beautiful mindset of serenity and peace and spirituality and these cards that you have developed and used. I guess my next question is, of course, we can use it on a personal level, but do you use it on a professional level as well with your when you have clients, right?
Oh,
Do,
definitely. Yes.
do you use,
This is
how do
really,
you use that on a professional level? How do you use that within your work?
yeah. Thank you. Um, I just wanted to step back for a moment because you talked about this dark night of the soul and coming through and the importance of what you do now in terms of maintaining that light and that health and that vibrancy. But the other thing is that I can easily assert to know that your dark night of the soul and everything you did to lift you out of that experience is the phoenix that rises from the ashes. That's what it was for me. I know that that's what it is for you. And I also know that if you were to go through the character strengths deck and you were to look at all of these words, you would notice that each one of these grew as you moved out of addiction and into a healthy, inspirational life, a life of service, right? So anybody, they can look at the hardest thing that they've gone through, but they made it through. They went through that dark tunnel. And
Hmm.
these are the qualities that grow. And so I just want to point out that these difficult experiences, these crises in our lives, these challenges, they can just seem like they're the worst thing in the moment that they're happening, in the time that we're struggling with them. And yet when we look back from having moved through that and back into our power, we
Hmm.
discover that there are countless gifts that are available
Hmm.
when we keep
I
our
mean,
hands and work it through.
it's interesting you say that because one of my mentors is Dr. John D. Martini, and I've been able to, since working with him and working through his method, I've been able to very recently been able to dissolve some guilt and shame that I had for a number of years. And since I did that, uh, for the first time in my life, I've got self worth, which I
Mhm.
never had before. And learning about the universal laws, and in particular the law of duality and the law of heuristic escalation, I've come to believe and come to believe strongly that you can't have a one-sided perception, right? There's no prey without a predator. There's no predator without prey. There's no good without bad. There's no bad without good. And anything that's been negative in my life, I've started to look at the benefits of how they've served me today, and
Yes,
vice versa.
yes,
Anything that's positive, I don't try and get caught up in that one-sided world. I look at the drawbacks of what's happening positive, so I keep myself in an equilibrium and
yes,
keep myself grounded. And it's exactly what you're saying.
yes.
But you're saying it by the use of these cards, and I think it's absolutely wonderful. So how do you use that in your professional work then? How
Yeah.
do you incorporate that with your clients and with
Mhm,
the work that you do?
mhm. There's so many things that I do. One thing I like to do at the beginning of a client session is to ask my clients, what would be the most wonderful thing you can imagine we could accomplish in our time together today? So we're just setting the stage. So one of the components we work with is intention, right? If you don't have intention, you're less likely to get the optimal results. So we start there. I also like to work on the level of thought to help people differentiate their observations from their stories or evaluations. This is really important because if we think that our evaluations or stories are the truth, for example, that guy is driving by and you're like, he's a jerk. And then you just believe that person's a jerk and then they become a part of your life and you've already mapped on they're a jerk. Then you are
Mm,
relating to a label that you've given as opposed to with reality as it comes forward. When you've put somebody in a box, they're more likely to show up in that box. You're less likely to get
mm,
the best out of them.
mm.
So it's important to be able to take some time to look at that level of thought as well. But
But if someone's driving like a jerk,
uh-huh.
how how can you not think they're a jerk? I mean,
Yeah.
that's just a natural response, right? I mean, if someone's driving and cutting you up and horning you, that's a jerk, right? I don't know. I mean,
Well, what it is that you experienced the observation as somebody was driving in a way that was uncomfortable to you. So, we're just
right,
making it up. So maybe they came too close to your bumper. They were driving faster than you're comfortable with. So those are the observations. And what
right.
comes up when we have those observations is I don't feel safe. And with that, there can be an anger response and like a knee-jerk response. In nonviolent communication, we'll call it a jackal response, and we're seeking to have a giraffe response, which was, when you drove by me that quickly and were so close to my bumper, I felt scared. It didn't meet my need for safety and consideration. Would you be willing to drive slower and to give more space between your car and mine? That would be using nonviolent communication to express something that is responsive and respectful and caring, as opposed to a quick reaction with name calling. So that would be a little example of it. And that is built out of the skill of being able to have empathy. So what is the observation? What happened? How did I feel about what happened? Which of my needs were not met? And how can I then express that to the other person in a way where they might be able to receive it and adjust their behavior? And not everybody's going to just adjust their behavior, but so many people, they want to get along with everyone. They want to contribute to life around them. So more often than not, you're going to get a very positive response. So coming back to working with clients, empathy it's a key component. So the very foundation of empathy is to be able to identify feelings and needs. And so we use the cards to flex that muscle. There's all kinds of small exercises that help you look at your feelings and needs as it relates to your thoughts about yourself, your thoughts about other people, your experience of uncomfortable event that happened, your preparation to re-enter a conversation where there was previously conflict. So there's many, many areas in which we can practice empathy, but the core is to be able to identify feelings and needs and to be able to build that vocabulary so strong that you can do it on the fly without the cards. Right.
Are you able to do something with me now from there to here?
Sure.
Let's try it. Let's do it. Go on,
All right.
over to you.
Over to me. So what would you like to work on? What would be the most wonderful thing that we could? I think we've got about 15 minutes left, so we need to keep it in a time container.
Exactly, yeah. So we won't go for the deep ones then. Or maybe, I mean, can we talk about something in the past that I still think about? Maybe would that be
Sure.
okay? Or yeah.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about my. Shall I tell you what it is? Is that
Sure.
how should we start? Yeah. Well, I found out when I was 18 that I was adopted from birth.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a massive shock for me. And the first thought to my mind was my whole life was a lie. Everyone knew something that I didn't know, and it was a very uncomfortable feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that was
Yeah.
then. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So because I've used the cards so many times, it would take me more time to sort through the cards right now than to share with you the emotions that I know I would choose from the deck.
Okay.
I wanted to say that first.
Yeah.
As you had said, it was shocking for you, and that's really the shock. And I would imagine like a heartbreak, that there's a feeling of disillusionment around that. And a sense of distrust, and that there was a deep longing to be able to trust again, a longing for consideration and respect, which in retrospect, it's like, wow, those needs, I'm 18. Where was that before? So those needs for consideration and respect and support and family, those are some of the needs that I would imagine really came up.
And definitely without going into obviously because of time, but without going into those 18 years, 6 of those 18 years uh, were very sad for me as well. What I went through for 6 years. So finding that out at 18, and then what I went from 11 to 17,
Mhm.
and then a year later I'm finding this out. It was like,
Mhm.
wow. It was like,
Sure, to
yeah,
have such a longing for support and connection and adults around you that you know you can count on to be there for you, who care about your well-being, who are trustworthy, they've got your back. To have that longing for 6 years during your teenage years, and then to discover at 18 uh, that so many of the things that you thought were true, um, yeah, I would imagine it just puts everything into question. Because again, this major piece of truth was hidden until that time.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I think when I did find that out, I mean, my addiction was pretty bad before then, but it did go to another level thereafter
Mhm.
for many years. So
Mhm. I would imagine that you felt very alone in that.
yeah,
There was a profound sense of vulnerability and aloneness and question around belonging and family, trust and safety. A lot, I can imagine a lot would get stirred up at that point.
yeah,
I can definitely see how that would increase a tendency towards self-soothing strategies, including addiction.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that was a deep 5 minute session already. So I can imagine, I can see where we could go with this. I really can.
Yeah.
And so at that point, obviously, if we were face to face or had longer time, we'd be using the cards. And would I be telling you my feelings, or would you be
Mhm.
telling me my feelings? How would
It
that work?
depends on the situation. Oftentimes in session, I'll give a deep dive of empathy. I'll also throw in a lot of acknowledgement because, of course, I get to know people deeply in these sessions. I get to know their heart. I get to understand their longings, and so I can speak to their spirit is what I'll call it. You know, that essence of light that's in every human being. But everybody has a unique light. There's a calling in every human being. So I get to know them in a deep way where I can not only give empathy for what they're going through and really reflect back their truth in a way so that I mean, I think as you can see, you get empathy and another layer wants to come out. You get more empathy, another layer wants to come out. And so there's kind of this revealing that happens, and I'm holding space for it simply by reflecting back what I'm hearing with an open
Mm,
heart and a safe space for that person. So oftentimes in the sessions, I'll do a lot of that so the person gets deeply heard, seen, understood. They know that they are appreciated and cared for, that I see them. And the card processes that I do in the session are generally just to train my clients so that they're able to do those card processes as homework. And then in our next session, we visit the homework to see how was the process for them. You know, how was it to identify emotions? Some people have a lot of resistance to identifying emotions. How was it to identify needs? There's people who have resistance, like, I don't want to be needy. And it can take a while to relax that conditioning and understand that it's not being needy to have to want acceptance, right? To want fairness, laughter. That this is not something to judge another person for. This is simply human. Um,
mm,
so I help people work through some of those challenges that can come up, and then there's just a amazing level of self-understanding that happens as people sort out their feelings and needs. Not only the part of the cup that's half empty, right? Because there's pain that we're going through, but there's also times when there's a lot to celebrate, and it's really important that we notice the part of the cup that's half full. So empathy is
mm,
not all about, you know, reflecting back pain. It's we reflect back the things that are expressed mourning, but we also celebrate
mm,
with each other and with our clients. So we look at the part of the cup that's half full, and that gives certainly a deeper sense of well-being when we acknowledge the things that are working, when we take time for gratitude. So it's an important
mm,
component of emotional resiliency. but also to building and repairing relationships with other people. If we're always focused on what's wrong with them, the relationship tends to deteriorate. And when we focus on like, wow, thank you, I appreciate you for these ways that you've shown up, and we can express that through emotions, needs, and character strengths, it builds a quality of connection, love, and trust that is a foundation so that the relationship can blossom in many ways. I need to drink for a moment. My throat's getting dry.
No, that's absolutely beautiful. Mahatma Gandhi said, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others." And I'm a big I love my quotes, and I love that quote in particular from Mahatma Gandhi. And I think Mahatma Gandhi was one of the first people that I came across who sort of brought, and I'm sure there's many others before, but who sort of brought not the non-violent concept
Yes.
into the world. I was wondering, because again, from me stalking you, Katrina, I've seen you with a lot of I've seen photographs of you with some Hindu gurus and some spiritual leaders, and I mean obviously we got about 5-10 minutes. Can you tell me a bit about that and how that came about in your life, and how important that was and how it is still today?
Thank you. I feel blessed to be around any spiritual leader who's seeking to emanate love, emanate kindness, emanate nonviolence. If we think about what is God or what is Allah or spirit or universe, whatever people want to call this mysterious entity, ultimately it is the brilliant beauty of unconditional love. And those words fall short of what this is. And so anytime I meet somebody who has deeply embodied those characteristics, it's just such a blessing to be in their presence and to experience that energy field. I was blessed to meet Amachi when I was 10 years old, the hugging saint. She was invited to the United States by one of my dad's best friends. And so I got to sit next to Amachi and hand her the flowers and the chocolate and the vibhuti as she shared blessings on the people who came to see her. So that's one connection. I read Autobiography of a Yogi when I was in middle school and was deeply moved by Paramahansa Yogananda. It helped me to connect more with the spiritual realm after reading that book, to be able to listen to things that are beyond our physical plane. I have enjoyed studying some of Ramana Maharshi. He's just a brilliant yogi master. Who else? Satya Sai Baba has been an influence. But, I also need to say, so has Rumi and Christ and Buddha and Baha'u'llah. And then there's the archetypes, the Kuan Yin, the Krishna, the Shiva. I'm definitely spiritually eclectic. All of the vibrational frequencies of love and beauty and grace are attractive to me. So there's a little bit of it.
That is such a wonderful way to finish our beautiful conversation, and I'm so happy that you've come on the show, and I'm sure my viewers, and I'm sure I'll get lots of response from this. So thank you very much. Just as a last note, how can people find you? How can they buy these cards?
Yes.
From anywhere? Could you, because I want to set mates rates, of course. No, yeah. Tell us how we can find you. Obviously, your website's down there.
Yeah, right there. lovecards.com. You can sign up for one of my radical empathy challenges. I like to throw these free 7-day challenges to give you a taste of the work and the basic foundations. Once you have that course, you can just do it over and over and over again, and you'll get a lot from that. There's free tools online. Of course, I offer sessions and workshops, and the cards are there, as well as a book that has my story about this healing with my son. That book is called Ignite Love. So all of that is through my website. Be sure to go to the free tools page and download your conflict resolution quick start guide. It's 10 pages. I just looked to see, like, can I take everything I have and bring it down to the smallest number of pages possible to really deliver something that will help people who are experiencing the challenges that are arising in this time in our world, with the pandemic and the protests and the politics. There's a lot of tension. And I know it's created a lot of relationship challenges for people. So I'm eager to get these tools out, and please take them and share them freely. And if you want to take a deeper dive, love to have you as part of the Radical Empathy Challenge or some of our upcoming workshops as well. And thank you so much for the opportunity to be on this show. It's just really a pleasure to get to know you. I'm appreciating the quality of your questions and your presence and your love and devotion and desire to share it with the world.
You've been absolutely wonderful. And could you tell us quickly about your show? When is your show starting yet, or has it started? And when is it?
It's going to start on Tuesday, September, I think it's the 29th, last Tuesday in September. And it's from 10 to 11 a.m. Pacific time. And the theme is going to be radical empathy in relationships. So it gives us a lot of flexibility in terms of the many challenges that can arise, but we'll definitely be sharing with you many of the tools that will support having a harmonious, joyful, connected, empowering way of relating to anyone in the world, whether that's your most intimate relationship or your work relationships, your family, people with diverse opinions. It's the tools that are going to help you in all of these relationships. So love to have you join us for that.
Well, I'd love to. Thank you very much. So, guys, if you want any more information, go to Spirituality Gone Wild website, go on our Facebook page, or give me a message and I can get you more information. But Katrina, you have been absolutely wonderful, and I feel honored and humbled to have you on my show. I've got a couple of messages before we finish. You may know someone, you may not. There's someone called Tina Helene. Do you know her? Loman Peterson.
I don't, but Tina was my name growing up. Good name. That was my nickname.
Yeah. she says namaste.
Namaste.
Got a thumbs up from a Facebook user, unknown. Got Christine Holmes. She says awesome. And Tina again has said great space, thanks. Beautiful. And there's other messages that we'll see later. But thank you very much, Katrina. Thank you for your time, and have a great day where you are. It looks beautiful where you are, and I'm sure we will see each other again.
Yes.
Because we're part of the same networks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Saf.
Thank you. Wow, that was Katrina. Wow, I feel so spiritually lifted. I feel like I'm flying out there, man. That was wonderful. And definitely, if you want a set of those cards, or if you want to get more involved and get more information, you got Katrina's website down there, www.lovesmartcards.com. Playing the game of co-creating win-wins. I love that. Next week, now I'm probably going to get Dr. John DeMartini back on here. So please have a look at that. It'll be a replay from a previous show, because I've been I've been honored to do some filming for this wonderful new show that's coming out on Sky UK, which I can't talk about too much now, but watch this space. But yeah, it's been another great day, another great show, and Katrina's been a great guest, and I'm so happy to have her. But until next time, namaste, namaskar, and peace. Peace to the world.